Function number 3 is to promote, you see, security of employment, to make it sure that nobody is going to lose the job. Nobody is going to lose the job. Job security, safety, health, and job satisfaction. This is also a function of this council. Number 4 is to take measures of facilitating good and harmonious working condition in the factory, to provide vocational training. Function number 4 is of the council to provide training, vocational and educational training. You see, to provide vocational training and educational facility for the children of workmen. It's very good that it is bound under this section to provide, you see, facilities for the vocational as well as educational facility and training to the children of workmen in secretarial and accounting procedure, and to promote their absorption in these departments. So to provide facilities of training, to provide facility of vocational training, educational facilities to the workmen children, so that they are absorbed in these industries or in these factories. Fifthly and lastly, the last function of joint work council is to discuss any other matter of mutual interest with a view to promoting better labor management relations. So anything which this council considered as essential and good for making the relation of labor and management good, it is allowed to do that. The next body is called under section 28 is Joint Management Board. It was, you see, the body we have just talked about, it was Joint Work Council. The next body, which is provided in section 28, is Joint Management Board. So there shall be a joint management board in every factory. Section 28 of the Act says that every company which owns or manages a factory establishment, and in every factory establishment which is not so owned or managed and which employs 50% or more, the management shall, in the prescribed manner, set up a joint management board in which the workers' participation shall be to the extent of 30%. In this board, I mean, what are the functions? We are going to talk about that, but this is a body, and to set up this body is mandatory for the factories and establishment in which the number of workers is 50 or above. Okay, and in this board, or in this body, the joint management board, the representation or the share of the workers in the board would be 30%, and 70% members of the board would be from the management side. The same section, section 28, gives us the details about the representation of employer and workmen in the joint management board. It says that the employer's representative on the joint management board shall be from amongst the director or senior executives. So members of this joint management board from the management would be directors and senior executives, not their nominees. Okay, and from side of the workers' representative shall be workmen employed in the factory or establishment. So any workman, whether he is office bearer of the trade, the collective bargaining agent or not, you see, that would be, obviously that would be nominated by the collective bargaining agent, and the names of the members of this management board from amongst the workmen would be given by the collective bargaining agent. So they can be office bearer, they can be, you see, other members of the trade union or of the collective bargaining agent. Section 28, subsection 2, talks about the functions. What are the functions of this joint management board? Number 1 is to improve in production, productivity, and efficiency. This goes, the very first function goes in the favor of the management. So the first function of the joint management board is to improve production, productivity, and efficiency. Okay, no detail has been given that through what measures. Anyway, this is the function. The object, the very object of this is to create atmosphere in which you see production, productivity, and efficiency is improved. Number two is fixation of job and price rates. Okay, so fixation of jobs. What should be the duration of the job? What would be, you see, the salary packages, etc., etc. That will be fixed by the joint management board. Uh, Next is planned regrouping or transfer of workers. So all the transfers or regrouping, just suppose that few workers were working in the production section, you see, they can be transferred from one section to other. You see, all these functions would be undertaken by the joint management board. And workers should not worry about it. Why? Because their representative would be there on the board. Although their ratio is 30%, but there would be their representative to look after their interests. Okay. Then comes laying down the principles of remuneration and introduction of new remuneration methods. So fixation of salaries, fixation of remunerations of the workmen is one of the functions of the joint management board. And you see, the workers' interest would not be in danger. Again, I'm telling you that workers are members. 30% of members would be taken from among the workers. The last function, of a joint management board is to provide the minimum facilities for such of the worker employed through contract as are not covered by the laws relating to welfare workers. So regular workers, this part is not talking about regular workers, the workers who have been employed on contract, you see. So they would provide minimum facilities if they are not getting those facilities which are provided for the regular workers. So this was about the function of joint management board. The next topic for today's lecture, today's lesson is uh, Section 31, which talks about unfair labor practices. Unfair, what are the unfair labor practices? Unfair labor practices are not encouraged or forbidden under this law. But question arises that, I mean, who will maintain the list of practices which are unfair labor practices? Section 31 has done it, and it has provided for both what are unfair labor practices on the part of the workers and what are the unfair labor practices on the part of the management. So uh, well, let us take, you see, uh, first of all, the unfair labor practices on the part of the employers, on the part of the management. You see, so it would be unfair labor practice if the management imposes any condition in a contract of employment through which it intends to restrain the right of a worker to join a trade union or to continue his membership of a trade union. I mean, the right of joining a trade union has been granted to the workman the by the Constitution of Pakistan. So if management introduces or imposes a condition in the contract of employment that he would not take part in trade union activities, this is or he must join such and such trade union. And maybe there are two, three trade union in an industry and they are rival with each other. And one of the trade union is liked and supported by the management. If management, while employing a worker in a factory, imposes a condition that we will employ you provided you join such and such labor union, that is unfair labor practice on the part of the management of the factory. Number two is refusal to employ or refusal to continue to employ any person on the ground that such person is or is not a member of or officer of a trade union. So on the discrimination on the part of the management, you see, between the workers belonging to a trade union and refusal to employ or refusal to continue to employ. I mean, where it is a contract and the management refuses to extend the contract on the basis that such and such person is in a trade union under such a trade union, it's unfair labor practice. Number three is it's a long list of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 practices. I'll hurriedly read it to you. Discrimination against any person in regard to any employment, promotion, condition of employment, or working condition on the ground that such person is or is not a member of or officer of a trade union. So discriminating, you see, discrimination on the part of the management just for the reason that such a person is or is not a member of a trade union is unfair labor practice. In the same way, the fourth unfair labor practice is dismissal, discharge, removal from employment, or transfer or threaten to dismiss, discharge, or removal for employment or transfer of a worker, or injure or threaten to injure him in respect of his employment by reason of that the worker is or proposes to become or seeks to persuade any other person to become a member. You see, so if a member is threatened or dismissed or removed from the service on the allegation that he was trying to, uh, you see, he was trying to uh, persuade other person to join a trade union, it is also unfair labor practice. You see, the next is induce any person to refrain from becoming or to cease to be a member of officer of a trade union, or on the base inducing any person, I mean calling the management, calling laborers and telling them that leave this trade union or join another trade union. This is also unfair labor practice on the part of the management. Then is compelling any officers of the collective bargaining agent to arrive at a settlement by using, if there is a dispute between the management and the workers, and that is conducted through collective bargaining agent, compelling any officer, you see, to make compromise, compelling, that's also unfair. In the same way, interfering with or in any way influencing the balloting for determination of the collective bargaining agent. When the election of collective bargaining agent is going on, you see, interfering or influence of the management on that election is also unfair labor practice. In the same way, recruiting any new workers during the period of a notice of strike. You will come to know, you see in the coming sections that the workmen, they can give a notice to the management that if the management is not going to accept their genuine and legal and reasonable demands, they are going to go on a strike. And the notice, the period of notice prescribed by law is 14 days. During those 14 days, recruiting any new workmen is unfair labor practice under Section 41. And next is closing down. Closing down the whole of the establishment in contravention of Standing Order 11A of the Industrial Law. You see, closing down the factory or closing down a part of the factory, you see, against the law is also unfair labor practice. And lastly, you see, commence, continue, instigator, incite others to take part in or expend or supply money or otherwise act in furtherance of support of any illegal lockout. As I told you that this law, the Industrial Relations Act of 2012, gives a right to the workers that in certain circumstances, under certain conditions, they can go on strike. And at the same way, it gives right to the management that under certain circumstances, you see, fulfilling certain condition, it can lock out the factory. So if the management is working for, providing money, you see, and bribing people to help them in an illegal lockout of the factory. That's also unfair labor practice. Coming to the unfair labor practices on the part of workmen, you see, there are five heads in this regard, like persuading a workman to join or refrain from joining a trade union during working hours. During working hours, if a workman is pressurizing another worker either to leave a trade union or to join certain trade union, this is unfair labor practice on the part of the worker. Secondly, intimidate any person to become or refrain. I mean, pressurizing, threatening a workman either to join a certain trade union or to leave the membership of certain trade union. This is unfair labor practice. Next is to induce any person to refrain from becoming or cease to be a member of officer of a trade union by intimidating or confining or offering to confer any advantage, bribing some workers that look, leave this trade union, will give you this benefit. You see, if the workers' body is offering other workers that don't go to that labor union, that trade union, or leave that trade union, come and join our trade union, this is also unfair labor practices on the part of the employee. The next is compelling or attempt to compel to accept any demand by using intimidation. You see, pressurizing the management and threatening, compelling, you see, the employer, the management of the factory by threats or otherwise intimidation to accept demands of the workers. This is unfair if it is not. Commencing, continuing, instigating, you see, or working for illegal strike. Illegal strike. Strike is illegal when it is declared under the requirement of, you see, provisions of this act. If it is without that or beyond that, that would be declared as an illegal strike. So working for an illegal strike is also unfair labor practice. The next topic is for today. I don't know what's the time. Our class is 10:35. Okay, we can continue for another 15 minutes. Okay. Mm, Shouldn't we? Did we complete 40 minutes?